Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's Puppet Time Online. This is your chance to sit down with the puppetry community's finest and me to find out what they know about. I'm your host, Eric Wright. It's brought to you by the Puppet Kitchen. As usual, I've got Katie over here.
Hi.
She's producing the show. She's going to be catching your questions and comments, making sure that we can answer all of them. So if you have any questions for me or our guests today, be sure to leave them in the comments section. We're on YouTube Live, so I think the comments are here, and Facebook Live, the comments are here, and Twitch, I don't know. They're up there, I guess. So hello to all our Twitch viewers.
We're big on Twitch.
Oh, huge. Really getting big. Anyways, I'm really happy that you're all here. I'm really excited for the show today. We've got two guests on today for the price of one. They are just some of my favorite people in the whole world. They're co-founders of Monkey Boys Productions, which is an excellent design, build, performance puppetry studio in just outside of Philadelphia. And I'm really excited to have on the show today Marc Petrosino and Mike Latini. Hi, fellas. Where are they?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Eric.
There's two of them. There's so many buttons to click.
I know, so many buttons.
So many buttons.
It's so nice
How's
to
it
see
going?
you both.
Great to see you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm really excited to have you guys on the show. Monkey Boys is just such a great, I really enjoy, like Puppet Kitchen and Monkey Boys, we have worked together a lot over the past several years, many years that we've both been in business. We both were, when was Monkey Boys started? Around the same time Puppet Kitchen, I think, right?
Yeah, 06.
06. Yeah.
06, yeah.
Summer of
And
06.
Mark, you and I worked together in some Basil Twist productions even before that, I think, right?
Yeah. What was the first year you did Petrushka?
Gosh, I don't remember.
Maybe 02 or 03.
It wasn't any sooner than 03 because I was still in school then. So it would have been like right after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we worked on Petrushka together and La Bella too. You were in La Bella, right? No? Definitely but we have worked many, many years in at the Met Opera
Yes.
in Madame Butterfly.
Yes.
You're now the head puppeteer on Trouble, the little boy puppet in that show.
Sorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I was well.
Yeah. And Mike, I've gotten to know you a couple of times. I've come in and worked for some of the productions that Monkey Boys has done in the past, and Puppet Kitchen has used your used all of you guys as builders on some of our projects. So it's been a really great collaboration over the past couple of years. So I'm really excited to have you guys on the show today to talk about, I don't know, none of that. I'm sure we'll cover some of that. But we always start by asking our guests how you got into puppetry. And I'll do that now. How did you get into Mike, how did you get into puppetry?
For the money. Oh, how? Yeah. So it's similar to many people's, being a fan of the Henson, all of Jim Henson stuff and the Muppets and Fraggle Rock, and growing up in the 80s, born in the late 70s, growing up in the 80s. And as I've grown older and I get asked this question, I make sure that I include the fact that, I grew up during all of the amazing practical effects movies of the 80s.
Yeah.
Star Wars, Jaws, Jurassic Park, all these movies that were utilizing puppets that people don't sometimes realize are puppets.
Yeah.
None of them are in the 80s.
Star Wars, one of them is,
Star
right?
Wars in the 80s.
Star Wars was 77. Jaws was 75. Jurassic Park was 90 something.
Will I watch them in the 80s?
It counts. Mark's a stickler. Take your EpiPen and go.
Sorry.
He's a real stickler for facts, that Petrosino.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that stuff influencing me, and then growing up and getting into theater and performing, but never wanting to give up the technical side of it, like the stage crew side of it, the building side of it, the more tactile side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then realizing later in college that puppetry and that industry combined everything and was a possible career job choice. So that's like the quickest path, like why puppetry? And the simplest answer is because it combines so much. And and I'm a jack of all kind of a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marc, what about you? What's your origin story?
Very similarly, I watched a lot of movies from the 70s, during the 80s.
And some from the 90s during the 80s, which was really ahead of your time.
Well, Mike lent me his DeLorean, which was actually from the 80s. To travel to the 90s. My first movie I ever saw in the theaters was the Muppet movie.
Nice.
And when I was little, I had one of those. Fisher Price made a version of Animal from the Muppets.
Uh-huh.
And it was great. It was full body, and you could reach into the head through the back, and it had a blink mechanism.
Oh, cool.
And I used to carry that thing around like a security blanket from when I was, barely walking.
Yeah.
And so I always loved puppets. I loved puppetry. My brother and I used to do shows behind our couch for our parents. We would lip sync to Stan Freberg albums. So years later, when I was like, oh, what am I going to do for a career? I was like, puppetry sounds cool, but there's only, at that point, it was the handful of guys. It was Jim and Richard and Jerry and Frank and, and I was like, there's no way I'm getting a career out of that. So I went and studied science.
Oh, yeah?
I was originally a marine biology student. Realized partway through that degree that I didn't want to do that for a living. And switched schools and majors and everything. And miraculously, my parents didn't murder me. And I went to a school, Ithaca College, where you could create your own major. And I created a puppetry degree there. And then just kind of chased it down. Went and worked with Flock Theater, which is where Mike and I met originally at the O'Neill, which you've obviously been to as well. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we have ever been there at the same time, but it is a home. It's influential to so many puppeteers. I mean, myself included. That place literally changed my life when I went there. Yeah. I was like 18 or 19 years old when I went through the first time, and it was incredible. It was it's such a great resource for the community, I think. So I'm not surprised, but I didn't know that you guys were part of the Flock Theater. That's so cool.
Yeah, we were both in there back when Flock would provide volunteers for the Aging Artist program. We both went through that. So it was an awesome program because we were in some ways able to go to the puppetry conference for free because we were donating our performance talents to the emerging artists, and we would basically work with them. But it was just, I really only did it twice. I feel like I've been to the O'Neill so many times, but I really only did it twice. I think it was like 2000, the summer of 2000 and the summer of 2002. I think I did it.
Yeah.
But so life-changing. Just the people that you meet, the friendships that you make, the reaffirming of people that are like you.
Yeah, it is really something. Man, if you were in there in 2002, we must have been there at the same time. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was when I did Ken's piece. What's his name?
Ken Berman?
Ken Berman, The Rose or something?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I was totally there. There was a Rob puppet piece.
Yeah.
He was a colleague of mine at UConn at the time. So I had met him then. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So strange. I think Liz Hara, I also was at the O'Neill with and had met once or twice there. And then 10 years later, met her again and became friends, not knowing that we had met before. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So the follow-up question to what got you into puppetry is now what keeps you in puppetry?
Is it also the money?
It's probably also
it's over the money. It's
We're
fun.
in so deep already.
Yeah.
we're very lucky
Mhm.
that we've been able to make careers out of this and pay our bills. Puppetry's been paying the bills for me for at least 15 years, if not more. I that's not necessarily what keeps me in it, but the fact that we are able to, make a living and still do it, because I spent many years doing it for virtually nothing, just because I love it so much, and that's truly what keeps me in it. Is just I love performing. I love being a puppeteer.
Yeah.
And the great thing about I'm sorry.
No,
The great thing about our company is that since we're also builders, it offers a lot of opportunities to problem solve, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You took my answer. That's exactly
I was going to say. I knew that's what you were going to say.
It's the ongoing. This has never been done. When everything has been done before, we are always getting jobs that the specificity of it has never been done, which is so weird. And then you have to problem solve
like
stuff that people never have to think about. Never have to think about.
You put a bug on top of a rat.
That probably a lot of those are from your SNL builds. Would you say that's true?
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of everything. Even like just working with Disney now, the weight restrictions and the
working with some big clients, a lot of restrictions have
just the stuff that they're looking for, the durability, the weight, the performability, like having to like take all of those Venn diagrams and squish them together.
Yeah.
Is what just causes such an amazingly creative design challenge.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you have a question?
Yeah, we
from
had a question. You opened the door, so I thought I'd throw this out there.
Oh yeah, hey Mosho. What's the process of making stuff for SNL? How much time do you have, and when do you get the script and things like that? Yeah, I would love to hear what that's like as well.
Well, it's Wednesday, so tonight we'll get a call from the usually the props or wardrobe departments saying we need X, Y, and Z, and we need it by either Friday or Saturday, depending on what's being made. I know for them, they pitch initial ideas on Monday, they write a lot on Tuesday, they do some rewrites today on Wednesday, and then they do a table read tonight. And after that is when they decide, all right, we're going to work on these 10 to 12 sketches. We get the call, we go to work trying to figure out who will work best on each project so that the next morning, Thursday morning, we can hit the ground running. Thursday morning is spent trying to source materials because, again, it's so random. It's not like we can stock.
Yeah.
You'd have to have an Indiana Jones size warehouse full of materials to really be prepared for what they might need. Yeah. 1 week it's like we need to make birds. The next week it's we need to make an Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah. Well, and last week you guys made the little Remy puppet on top of
John Krasinski's
head. God,
yeah.
His name just
the little Remy puppet, the little beetle puppet, the oversized high five hand, and some oversized hair. I think.
And also,
you made all of that Thursday and Friday, and then delivered it Friday night.
Most of it went up Saturday morning.
Yeah, we'll leave here and be there usually around noon on Saturdays. Is usually when we get there.
But go ahead.
The challenge is last week was that they specifically asked for the miniature puppets to match the costumed humans.
Oh, sure.
And their costume department was, of course, busy doing like pre-shoots and all this other stuff. So they hadn't finalized anything with their design until a little later. So it was like this game of like, we can only do so much work until we hear from them because we don't want to have to redo work,
Yeah. And you guys have been building stuff for them now for a couple of seasons. Have you felt like you've gotten better at being prepared for this kind of fast thing, or is it always kind of a scramble?
The only way we are more prepared now is is trying to line up, knowing, all right, we're going to need to line up this many people, or just trying to have doors open. There's nothing in the rooms yet, but at least we know where the doors are, so we're not fumbling for keys. Because it's just so random, and there's no way to predict. Like the most forewarning we ever get is sometimes earlier during the read through, we'll get a call like, "Hey, this sketch is probably going to make it. It's got lots of puppets, or it's got lots of this.
Yeah,
be prepared. Start thinking, so we can really start shopping or looking for stores that might have things."
sure.
That's the thing. We don't get the call off until 10:30 at night, and everything's closed then. So we can't even call a store and be like, "Hey, do you happen to have dumbbells or feathers or
Yeah, we'll do as much research as we can on Wednesday night to be like, oh, this is local. We can actually drive there. We can call them first thing. They might actually have this, and we can actually go and get it.
Yeah.
But it's the thing that makes it a little easier now is just that we know what we're getting into. Even though what we're getting into is hard.
Yeah.
Is 4 a.m. work nights and then getting up at 9 to go drive to New York, kind of a thing. But
that's wild. Did you have another question?
Well, I just thought we should show.
Oh yeah.
This
one of the bit. Yeah.
We had some shout outs.
Totally. The moving
Thank you, Michael Leslie.
Thank you, Michael Leslie.
The gentleman who just posted there, Michael Leslie, was the voice of Audrey 2 on the national tour we worked on.
Oh, that's right.
He also understudied the voice for the Broadway production, and he understudied the voice for the original off-Broadway production back in the 80s.
Amazing.
Which Mike watched in the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even mention
he was
that,
the voice.
I didn't even mention
the voice
that
of
you guys
Paper Mill.
were the shop that built the recent Audrey 2 puppets with Nicholas Mahon's designs for the new off-Broadway production that I'm a part of. And you guys did a lot of a lot of the like puppetry direction type of work in that show as well, getting Teddy and I up to speed and sort of making sure that we knew how to use the puppets and that the production knew how to use the puppets, which was really incredible because you both have been a part of Little Shop Productions many times over the years and have a set that you rent out and you're pretty intimately connected with that show. I wonder, can you talk just like what was your first exposure to that show, or like where did that start for the two of you?
Mine was Mine was definitely the movie. Was my first exposure, and then just getting into the puppetry industry, learning more about it, and having met Marty Robinson at the puppetry conference, learning about his connection with it, and then like kind of learning more about that, and then finding out that they were going to bring it to Broadway back in 2004, 5,
something like that. Yeah, I think it was
something like that.
I
mean, like, oh, I got to get in on that, and I was able to get on the very tail end of the Broadway build, and then got a full-time position on the Broadway tour build, which then led to, and I auditioned for Broadway, but got put on the back list, and then. But then for the tour, I got one of the first positions on the tour because I was also working the build, and I think I was considered the press puppeteer for the Broadway show as well. So that was like cool. The real beginning of my like head firstness of Little Shop. And then, like since then it's been over 1,000 performances, I think.
That's crazy.
Of the show. Yeah.
Actually, the first time I saw the show, my dad played Mushnik at Summer Stock Theater, in Central New York. Yeah, and then I saw the movie, like Mike. Then when I went to Ithaca College, they thankfully decided to produce it as during my senior year, so I used it as a senior project. So I modified a set and performed the puppets. With a cast that's like gone on to do a lot of stuff. One's a successful stand-up, another is on Broadway in Come From Away. Cool. Another's big Philly actor. Yeah, it's amazing the amount of talent that's come out of Ithaca. And then, of course, like Mike, I met Marty, got to audition for the Broadway show, did the tail end of the Broadway show and then the national tour.
Yeah.
And like Mike said, literally we performed the show over 1,000 times a piece.
That's just crazy. I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine. I mean, I can.
You can.
Because
I was gonna
that was
say-
all I was wishing for.
You'll get there.
You're in the unique position to appreciate that, having
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
It's
in the
really
monster
amazing.
so
I mean,
many
it was. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. You know, I've especially just as like physical performance is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But once you get into it, like it's such an incredible show to be a part of. How was the production for you guys? Like, how was being a part of that production? I know that there was a lot of it was like it was a very fast turnaround for the production, and I assume that some of your skills in like producing things for SNL on a very tight turnaround helped in turning this show around on a tight turnaround. But what was that like for you guys, and how was working with Nicholas and Michael Mayer, the director?
Working with Nicholas was fantastic. He's so collaborative. And because, like you said, this was such a tight turnaround, it was essential for that to happen. There's, one of the things we've discovered at SNL is there's no room for egos. Just there's not enough time for anybody to throw a fit about something. And similarly with this, we had 2 months maybe to put the puppets together. And Nicholas, he's a great designer and very amicable and just a really nice person to work with. So from that respect, it was a lot of fun. We definitely were frustrated because of the time frame. As a result, we took one of our rental sets and modified it to try and look as much like Nicholas's designs as we could.
Yeah.
So because they originally came to us and asked for us to build a complete set from scratch in 2 months. And as Mike can tell you, we have designs for our rental sets. We've built them several times. It still takes us about 6 months to build one of those sets.
Yeah.
So to build something from scratch in 2 months is just impossible.
Yeah. But incredible that you guys had a solution for it, and they turned out beautifully. I feel like building them around existing skeletons was a huge boon to Teddy and I, because there was already institutional knowledge about how the puppets worked, and I think we were able to really reduce the amount of learning time. Like with any new puppet, it's like learning to play a brand new musical instrument that you built from scratch. So it's like we had a base of knowledge that was really essential to draw from, and we could get to the part where we're acting.
Right. And Michael Mayer was so great about that. Like I've worked with other directors and versions of the show that have been similarly as good, but he understood that we had so much experience with the show and that we only had a certain amount of time. So he really trusted us, especially when we were teaching Jonathan Groff the puppet that he has to hold.
That's right.
It's really just be like, you guys go for it. I trust you. And that's really great from a director, especially a director like him, that fully trusts, a couple of puppeteers.
A couple of yahoos from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And we were lucky too that the producers listened and actually hired you and Teddy like professional puppeteers, because they originally were trying to just hire understudy singers to play the puppeteer parts, and we're like, this is one of the essential parts of the show. You need people with this skill set. So we were lucky that you guys were there, and especially you, Eric, because you are a skilled builder. So you helped with maintenance, and you were aware enough of issues that you could say to us, hey, X, Y, and Z is broken, instead of like something's not working. You could tell us specifically what was going wrong, so we could try our best to help.
Yeah, I don't know, like the audience, I don't know how much they realize how much maintenance goes into puppets that are used every day. It's it's lots of producers and people that haven't worked with puppets before. They'll ask us to make something, and we'll give them a price, and they'll be like, okay, but then we have to educate them about the fact that, like, this is kind of like a car. If you don't maintain it and check the oil, it's not going to last. You need someone there that knows what they're doing to make sure the hinges are working, the fabric isn't tearing, the bungees aren't breaking, so many things, and we try and provide them, of course, a list of like, check all this stuff every week, every month. Like, these are the things that could go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, it's just essential to have that kind of, again, that kind of experience that you know that those things are going to happen, and it's not that's not, you know, a matter of not being prepared enough or having a good enough built puppet. It's just like, that's just what puppets do. Just like costumes. I mean, it's like costumes or props or sets or anything. Like, things that come into contact with people will need maintenance, and they will, you know, they will need to be tuned up from time to time.
And it's, as we've kind of mentioned, it's compounded by the fact that it's often just a brand new thing.
Yeah.
So you're often running around with a prototype instead of, you know, something that's been mass produced 1,000 times.
Yeah, sometimes you're going to make the first of something. It's going to go do a show for a year, and you're going to redesign a third of it for the second year because of things that you learned. Yeah.
That actually, you know, brings up a question I want to ask you guys, because something for me and for Emily and Michael, when we were running the Puppet Kitchen, there was a big deal was like making sure to make time to look back on the projects we've done. And this was something we always had to make time for. It was always something that we really had to try to do, sometimes more successfully than others. But I'm curious about like how you guys approach that, like carving out time to look back at your successes and like challenges in order to, you know, create more like an atmosphere of success in the future.
As we're growing and having more employees, we're realizing that's more and more necessary to basically, after a build is finished, is to schedule a time for like a post-mortem and to try and talk out all the things that worked, all the new techniques we've learned, all the new tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff, but especially to talk about the, you know, like what didn't work, what do we know we need to do better, we need to make sure we do this, that, and this. And that's our main thing for that is those post-mortem chats. And trying, just be prepared with project leads, project managers, all of those like managerial business side of puppet making that lots of people don't think about. It's those kind of people that think of that kind of a thing, that like we should talk about this because we know like we were all pulling our hair out at this time.
Do you use that information later on? Like, when you're starting a project, do you say, oh, this is kind of like that other project, we should watch out for X, Y, and Z? Or how does that work into sort of your future practice?
Yeah, I don't think we refer to it like, I guess it just gets stored into the data bank of projects that you've done in the past, and having a pretty solid crew that is always here. It means that they all have similar historical knowledge of our projects, especially our lead fabricator, Michelle. She's been with us for how many years now, Marc? 5 years? 6 years? It's our lead fabricators. Our lead fabricator has been with us for a while now, so
that's amazing.
Through a lot of growth and all of our biggest projects. So she's really awesome because she'll definitely hold our feet to the fire and like, this didn't go well, we need to figure out a better way to do that.
Because that's as much as the, like, from a technical standpoint, learning from the past.
Yeah.
The emotional and mental well-being of our employees and coworkers is another huge facet of that. Like trying to make sure, all right, we don't want to burn people out. We don't want people to get frustrated or, lose sleep. I mean, sometimes that's inevitable with the hours we keep, but we're trying to get better about saying, all right, we're going to work crazy hours this week on SNL, but take Monday off and Tuesday off or whatever. If you're doing a week's worth of work in 3 days, take a couple days and let your brain get back to normal.
Do you feel like your experience as puppeteers in particular, or puppet builders in particular, has informed like your managerial style or the way that you approach running a company?
Absolutely. We're always trying to manipulate our employees.
That's the right answer.
I mean, so much of puppetry is teamwork, and there's no way we'd be where we were if it weren't for the team that we were working with. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you guys, I don't know, do you, again, like I feel like Monkey Boys and Puppet Kitchen is like just sister companies.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
You know, similar co-founder stories, similar like services that we offer, similar challenges that we meet because we're in the same industry and we're like working on the similar projects the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that a big challenge for us as owners was kind of the pull of the creative work that we started the company to do, because we were puppet artists and doing everything at the beginning of the company, and then playing that off of the pull to be good managers and to like run a team and to run a business, which is what our roles ended up being, later on as we brought in more people and as our circle sort of grew, because we were doing bigger projects that needed more people and needed a larger scope. How do you guys manage that pull? I guess, do you feel that pull between, wanting to run a company and wanting to like do the fun creative stuff? And how do you manage that?
It's been definitely like a step process of like pulling yourself out of the fabricator role, and closer and closer to the like oversee design, make sure people understand how I would do it, and kind of let them make their own choices and trust them. That's a continuing thing with us, how our skills are best used, because we're still creatives and artists that don't want to just be managers. So how do we appease that part of us, and then how do we find the right people to manage that also have the same creative inclinations that we do? And then we're also getting to the point sometimes now where those people are coming up that staircase also, and they're going to have to make decisions of like, do I want to stay here as a fabricator and fabricate all the time, or do I want to go to another step and be a manager half the time and a fabricator? Like it's something that's always, not always, it's on my mind a lot. And I know Marc's too, with the performance side of things too, also.
Right, of course.
Yeah, it's very frustrating to have to take that step back, but it's a necessity for the growth of the company. Like Mike said, we're very lucky that we found people that we can trust who are super skilled. We brought a woman on, Betsy, who's our production manager now, and she's so wonderfully detail oriented, and we can trust her to handle all of these administrative things and know that they're going to get done. And it allows us to focus. Mike can be like, oh, I can focus on this mech or this design facet. And I can be like, all right, I can drive up to New York and handle rehearsals. I know Betsy's got that handled, or Michelle's got that handled. We're very lucky.
That's really cool. Yeah, there's another question.
Yep, here's a great question.
Great. Oh yeah, another from Michael Leslie. What changes are occurring in puppetry, and what direction do you think the industry is moving towards? That's a great question, Michael.
Yeah,
because you guys, you really are at the, I mean, you guys are, like you said, you're working all the time. You're doing, like, you're involved in so many productions with puppetry. And you've been working for so long. I'm sure you have some idea of like what the track is, or what the, where do you feel like the community is going?
It definitely feels like it's kind of swinging back after that heavy computer design or computer graphic binge that all these productions were having in the 90s and early aughts. Everything was CG, and like, we don't need practical. A lot of places realized you need that breadth that a practical creation has. So it seems like the pendulum's swinging back a little bit, thankfully.
That's good.
I mean, now it's becoming more collaborative, so the two work together. Like, was Spike Jonze' film, the Sendak, Where the Wild Things Are.
Uh-huh.
Those were pretty seamlessly joined between practical and CG. And nowadays, too, with the greater access to electronics, it's a lot easier to incorporate, animatronic items, whereas that used to be strictly an LA thing. You had these guys like Stan Winston and Rick Baker and all of them they were the big fish, and they brought all of the super talented people into their studios. So that's where you went for those items. Nobody outside of that knew how to do those things.
Sure.
But now you can buy a drone for, $40 and pull it apart and use it to do something, or, whatever else you might want to do.
Yeah. And you guys have done, you guys have started integrating quite a bit of CNC design and 3D printing and things like that, right?
Yeah, we're trying to really take advantage of even the like more user consumer brand versions of things that are out there, just to see how they work for us. How can we fold, whether it's a 3D printer or a CNC machine or a laser cutter, how can we fold that into our fabrication style and make sure that it's not just that if we're going to use it and it's going to take work basically from a person, that it's worth it, because then that person can be doing something else. And it's been really fun to try and figure out, like, okay, what's the right thing to 3D print? What's the right thing to Cricut cut? What's the right thing to X carve? What's the right thing to laser cut? And I'm really enjoying that part of it. My college degree was in CAD CAM metals and jewelry.
Cool.
So I luckily learned a 3D design program called Rhinoceros in college that has been so helpful, because it was one of the first programs that wasn't really built from like sculpture like Maya or ZBrush. It was specific for making jewelry or making mechanical practical things. So that's been really helpful, because I can think of a little mech design and I can print it out now in an hour or something like that and see what needs to be refined. If I can actually 3D print it, can I 3D print it with an FDM printer, or do I have to send it to an SLS printer? Like,
sure,
all that kind of stuff. That materials machine knowledge is what makes me really happy right now.
Yeah.
And doing those little dinky things and then incorporating them to like really help a product is the best.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, I went off on a tangent. I don't even know where I came from.
I saw, this is a bit, speaking of tangents, I saw Adam Savage video where he was building a puppet, but they cut the foam on a laser cutter.
Yeah.
Is that, first of all, what? Second of all,
yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that one of the things that I've struggled with is like keeping a razor blade very perfectly 90 degrees as you cut curves. This seems like something a laser cutter is very good for. What's your take on that?
Yes, you can definitely cut L200 if that's the foam you're talking about. Yeah. I haven't ever seen it cut like poly foam, like craft foam.
Or reticulated foam.
Or reticulated foam. But I know you can cut L200, L400, the cross-linked polyethylene foam with it. It does slightly round your edge from the heat of it.
Okay.
But I don't think that's a big issue. That's one of our next purchases is a laser cutter etch to start testing all that stuff. We'll CNC cut. We've CNC cut L200.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that works well to get like really precise curves and like we did it to cut some dumbbell letters, relief letters for some oversized costumes for SNL once.
That's perfect.
Because doing that, I guess you could set up like a hot wire and do it manually. and we use a hot wire for some things, but it was one of those things that I was able to set the machine. We were all working on the rest of it and save us a little time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Glad to know you're pro lasers.
Oh, well, Michael
I
Leslie
sort of
asked.
assume so. I mean, just by the look of you, but
Michael
it's
Leslie
it's
asked where the industry was going.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tag a little COVID in there that like I keep saying to Mark and Betsy and other people, I'm like, we need to stay prepped because I think it's going to be crazy once COVID is gone to go.
Yeah.
That like the entertainment, people are going to be going to the movies and to the theater, and it's going to be, everyone's going to be trying to go see stuff when it's safe. So
yeah, I mean, the Roaring Twenties was a thing because of the, you know, the influence of 1918. Like that's a real thing that has happened in the past. So I think you're totally right about that. I'm super curious. You know, I mentioned that Monkey Boys and Puppet Kitchen are like our sister companies, and that we do a lot of the same stuff, and that technically makes us like competitors in the industry. We you know, we are both studios that do a lot of design and build. Like we have the same services to offer a lot of the times, and it's you know, but we are friends. Like we are also friends. How do you guys view that kind of like competition within the puppetry community, or how do you guys view that? Like, I mean, like do you process that as like, oh yeah, well, we're competitors with Puppet Kitchen or with, you know, Atchison Wall Studios or Henson Studios or anything like that, but we're also friends with each other because it's such a small community.
That's it. That's absolutely true. It's you know, the vast majority of the collegial, what's the right word for that? Similar
collegiate
companies.
Yeah,
a lot of us are friends, so it's great to know that and know it's not cutthroat. Like, you know, if we wind up going out for the same project, we know, you know, everybody's being honest and doing their best, and more often than not, we wind up working with each other anyways because we subcontract each other, especially if it's a large project. The real bonus comes with outside of that. Like if we don't get the project or after the project, we can all talk to and be like, hey, this was great. This was not so great. This is what we learned. This is what we can do better in the future. So it's nice to have in such a niche art form, such a great pool of knowledge that we can all share in. And you know, try and make sure that none of us make the same mistakes, you know, going forward.
It's nice because outsiders can't really take advantage of the industry. Now that does happen, but because we're all friends, we will communicate with each other when stuff's going weird or a project just went a little sideways, which is super helpful for the growth of the industry so that we don't get pushed down, you know. And we all care so much about puppets and puppetry that we don't want another puppet company to look shitty. Like it's not going to be good for the industry if another company does a poor job, you know.
Right.
It's gonna make that producer or that director think like, oh, puppets are so hard to work with. They cost so much money, and you don't really get your money's worth, and there's no advantage, because we all know that's not true.
Right.
Like that if used correctly, the advantages that puppetry and puppets bring is so helpful.
Yeah, I think it's really comforting in a way, because I don't know, I mean, I can only assume, because your company is so similar to Puppet Kitchen, that like there's so much anxiety about how to do it, because I don't have any business training. It's all been on the job business training. It's all been, you know, doing research on my own and like trying to kind of scrap together the information as best I can. It's really helpful to know that that my friends are also doing the same thing and also coming up against the same same issues, and that I can, that I can reach out and say, I'm having trouble with this thing, or, how did you guys figure this out? Kind of in the same way that really got me into puppetry, which is like, how did you do this leg joint? Or I saw this thing that you did, like, what is that? How does that work?
Yeah.
That it's really nice to feel that extends to everything that we're doing in puppetry, including how, running companies and, like the managing people who are building things that have never been built before, and like, tips and tricks. I
probably enjoyed almost as much talking about the challenges of growing a company that don't have anything to do with puppetry as I do the puppetry side of it. Like a good portion of our conversations are about QuickBooks or our pricing calculator or payroll or insurance. Like it's stuff that is nice to like bounce off the wall with someone that is in the similar industry, because there aren't many direct analogs for the companies that we have out there.
Right.
Yeah, we've searched high and low for an agent for us, for financial people, like for accountants and whatnot. They were so outside of the normal realm that they don't know how to even get basic returns for us. So it's been so great, like you're saying, to be able to share that knowledge. I mean, you guys shared your calculator with us ages ago, and
that's right.
We still use the foundation of that for our current calculator.
Is that right?
Very much appreciated. I mean, it's evolved.
My heart's so good. We worked so hard on that thing, and it just seemed like we were just ramming our head against the wall for so long. And that thing has gone through so many versions.
Calculators for companies, like for pricing things out, Excel sheets are the best thing. Like I remember when we first started, when it just had like two things on it. It just had labor and materials.
That's right.
That was it. There's nothing else.
Done.
What did Katie say?
Katie is like doing a dance over here. She is an excellent administrator.
I said my work here is done. And you're talking about spreadsheets.
Welcome to this creative podcast where we're talking about spreadsheets.
Did you know that column A comes after column C?
If you press equal first, you can put in a formula.
Oh my God, advanced placement.
You're right. This is the secrets they don't tell you in puppetry, is like, wait, you're not ready for learning about spreadsheets yet, but you'll get there when you're ready for it. It's really advanced puppetry. Wow, that really does my heart good. I'm so I really did work so hard on that. We all did. Michael and Emily and I were just like, ugh. It was all from just like perennial disappointment with how we were, like how unprepared we felt to respond to people. Because responding when somebody asks you how much is it going to cost to build a thing that has never been built before,
right?
It really felt like we just had no we had no footing. There was no anything is possible. I guess it could be anything. I don't know. It could be $5, could be 5 million. I don't know. It's never been built. Like coming up with some kind of foundation.
I think you guys did something. You guys taught a virtual class maybe, and there have been a few other like online. I think I remember Krutinger doing a little like how to price a puppet thing on Instagram, like, which is great.
He has a great graphic for that, which is really, really helpful.
Yeah, it's super important for anyone starting out and selling their own stuff. Some of our biggest issue in the industry is people undervaluing themselves and their time.
Well, and I remember also getting a lot of help from, like you said, looking for similar industries that have done the work in the past, and then just translating is so much easier than trying to figure it out from scratch on your own. And I remember that, when Puppet Kitchen was starting, and same with Monkey Boys, like there was a lot of thought being put into web design and graphics, like freelance graphics work. And that, like that industry, that sort of gig industry for graphics and for web design stuff was really getting a lot of thought, and for like creating tech startups, was giving so much thought into how you would price your work for creative time, which was super, super helpful in trying to think about how we thought, you know, working on something, you know, on creative projects would be part of what we, you know, would be part of our business.
And also just being comfortable enough to, like, I think one of the downfalls of us loving our work so much is that sometimes we feel guilty charging for it.
Right.
And that's something that we have to, you know, you have to get over, because our time is really valuable.
Yeah.
Like, you're paying us a lot to do this chat right now.
Well,
so
it's
Hey, you're
all
getting
money
paid?
well spent. Speaking of which, we should advertise for you. No, you're totally correct. You're totally correct that feeling of, well, I would do it for free, so why would I charge? Is a really big hurdle for, I know, for myself and for you guys too, like a huge hurdle for all creative artists who want to like have their art be a part of their living, a part of how they make their money. And it's just, you know, there's a lot of different strategies to it, but ultimately it's down to like, if you value your work and other people value your work, like, here's how to turn that value into either money or rent into money, or a barter, or like something else of value.
Right. Not exposure.
But I do want to talk about, because you guys have started a shop for puppet supplies as well.
Thanks, Katie.
Recently, right. So you can find this on the Monkey Boys website in their shop section. But you guys have puppet kits that you sell. Can you talk a little bit about developing those, or you know, how you saw those incorporating into Monkey Boys?
Yeah. I'll start by saying that one of the main reasons we wanted to do this was because we get so many phone calls from people that can't afford puppets from us, that want puppets from us. And we feel bad, like, because we want to grow the puppet industry. We want people that are be like, I would really love a little fuzzy monster puppet. So that was like the first inclination of doing this. And then also second was COVID. We had to send everyone home in the beginning of March, and realized that, like, what's going to happen to this industry, this company, if we've got nothing to sell? Like,
right.
How do we keep this 6,000 square foot workshop open?
Yeah.
And we've been talking about it, you know, this kind of thing for a while, and it was just like the right time. Like, we've got to make something that we can sell that can be used all the time. Like,
and they're cool. Their puppet kits are really, really neat. I really like the way because well, you know, they're great because they're TV style puppets. They're like Muppet style puppets, you might call them, but they have a great look to them that's not just a Muppet clone, and it's also kind of a blank canvas for people to build their own creations on top of. And it really is a good, like, start and entry into puppetry, which I'm always on the lookout. Like, I'm always on the lookout for good entry points into the community. And I think it's really cool that you guys are offering that.
Thanks. Go for it, Marc.
I was just saying thanks.
But
well,
that was.
I mean, thanks a lot.
We talked a lot about that.
What's that?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, we are just about out of time, actually, so I wanted to start saying goodbyes and thank yous. It's really excellent to have you on the show. I really love the work that you guys do, and so I'm so thankful that I get to be a part of it, and that we get to bring you into Puppet Kitchen stuff so many times. Very much looking forward to the next. Getting back into Little Shop certainly, but whatever our next collaboration will be, I know it's going to be amazing. So
spreadsheets.
It's definitely going to be spreadsheets. Let's be honest.
Spreadsheets, the musical.
With puppets.
This thing writes itself. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. It's really nice to see you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks,
Katie.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks.
Bye. Well, thank you all so much again for another Puppet Time Online. Huge thanks to my guests, Marc Petrosino and Mike Latini of Monkey Boys Productions. Go check them out at their website and follow them on social media. They do incredible work, and you have to see it to believe it. It's really phenomenal stuff. And also, you know, keep an eye on Saturday Night Live for the things that they make. It's pretty amazing what they do in 2 days. And speaking of going online, you can follow us online. We're on Instagram, which is where we started this show at the Puppet Kitchen. And you can check us out on the web at puppetkitchen.com. And now, excitingly, we have a Patreon page to help support this show. So go to patreon.com/puppetkitchen, find us, join that Patreon community, and help support this show so we can bring in more excellent folks from the puppetry community and me to talk about what people know about. Because that's what this show is all about, and I just love it. And
I will always laugh at that. I really have to stop encouraging you.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb.
But it's just great. And I'm really, so thank you all for being here. We also have some sweet merch and things available if you want to take home some sweet Puppet Kitchen swag. I won't necessarily say that some of those things are perks for being a Patreon member, but I mean, you know, I'm not going to not say it. Anyway, it's been a great show. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you next week on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's right in the middle of the week. And just remember, you don't have to do everything to do something. We'll see you next time.